Well, one of the big stories of the past 48 hours, maybe the big one, could be titled Our Chicken Shit, United States Supreme Court. And I thought about making that the title of this video, but of course that would be kind of violating YouTube's rules. But informal or formal. But anyway, everybody's up in arms about this absolutely idiotic decision by the USSC to let stand the Texas abortion law. And opponents of that Texas abortion law, which was supposed to be a fetal heartbeat rule of that almost all abortions past 6 weeks of pregnancy would be outlawed. And this would be before the vast majority of women even knew they were pregnant. So what all women would have to do is would be forced to do if they didn't want to go through with the pregnancy is go on Plan B right away. Or some kind of or menstrual extraction or whatever. But they wouldn't even know they were pregnant yet in the vast majority of cases. So, it's all bullshit anyway. Because nobody gives a crap about the fetuses. It's all about controlling women. But anyway, basically, because this stay was put in during the USSC's vacation, or I should say stay. I should request for a stay. Was put in during the USSC's vacation. Basically, the majority of the courts said, how dare you interrupt our vacation to the Bahamas or to Switzerland or to Cabo San Lucas or wherever, or Aspen, or wherever the hell they go during their 3-month recess from July till October. How dare you interrupt us for that? So we're going to put a stay, or we're going to allow the abortion law to go through, this Texas abortion law, but we're not overturning Roe v. Wade. That's what I got from the gist of it. We're not going to overturn it. No, we're not overturning it. We just don't want to leave the comfort of our vacation homes to come in and actually issue a ruling or actually do the work to render a decision on it. All they had to do was put a stay in. And that's all the request was. But they were too lazy to do it. And so that's what they were saying. We're not overturning Roe v. Wade, but we're not going to issue a stay in this idiotic law. And the law is even worse than just the 6-week, after the 6-week pregnancy thing that abortion is basically banned. It's that they have snitches. People are allowed to snitch on anybody who procures an abortion, probably who even has an abortion or is trying to get an abortion, that they could be charged. You talk about a witch hunt. And of course, it's all cynical crap. It's all cynical crap. And then you had the minority, the 3 so-called liberal justices, plus John Roberts, the Chief Justice, attacked this chicken shit decision, and John Roberts couldn't, he just thought it was this chicken shit. Basically, he called him chicken shit. And what is this? Oh, yeah. With whom? Yeah, dissenting. The statutory scheme before the court is not only unusual but unprecedented. The legislature has imposed a prohibition on abortions after roughly 6 weeks, and then essentially delegated enforcement of that prohibition to the populace at large. The desired consequence appears to be to insulate the state from responsibility from implementing and enforcing the regulatory regime. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's outright McCarthyism. The state defendants argue that they cannot be restrained from enforcing the rules because they do not enforce them in the first place. I would grant preliminary relief to preserve the status quo ante before the law went into effect, so that the courts may consider whether a state can avoid responsibility for its laws in such a manner. Defendants argue that existing doctrines preclude judicial intervention, and they may be correct, but the consequences of approving the state action, both in this particular case and as a model for action in other states, counsel at least preliminary judicial consideration before the program devised by the state takes effect. So yeah, he's right. It should be considered whether the thing is a valid way to go before putting it in, but the majority, they're chicken shit. They just said, oh, just go ahead and let it take effect, but it's not. But we're not going to argue on the merits of the case. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're saying, we're not going to overturn Roe. We're not going to look at this, the merits of this law. We're not going to overturn it, but on the other hand, we're going to let it go into effect. No harm, no foul. A bunch of lazy shits that don't want to decide anything or even lift a finger to put an injunction against the enforcement of this law until they come back from their vacations from wherever. And so that was what Roberts was basically arguing. I mean, he's right. And whether or not cynics are thinking that he's just posturing to make it look like he's presenting the other side, that's notwithstanding. I'm not going to look at it, what his motives are. And then, of course, the Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan, they argue that the whole thing is just bullshit. And it's completely unconstitutional. Texas's law delegates to private individuals the power to prevent a woman from obtaining an abortion during the first stage of pregnancy. But a woman has a federal constitutional right to obtain an abortion during that first stage. So it's illegal on its face. Under Roe v. Wade. It's totally illegal. And a state cannot delegate a veto power, which the state itself is absolutely and totally prohibited from exercising during the first trimester of pregnancy. So it's a very clever damn scheme that Texas has. And it says here, the very bringing into effect of Texas's law may well threaten the applicants with immediate and serious harm. One of the clinic applicants stated on its website that due to Texas's SB 8 law, it is unable to provide abortion procedures at this time. And then it goes on. And anyway, they're going into the argument about the whole illegality of it. So anyway, so the USSC is trying to have it both ways. Okay. And they're saying, the majority's saying, oh, we're going to let this law take into effect, but it's not overturning Roe v. Wade. And the dissenters are saying, no, you are allowing basically an overturning of Roe without looking at the merits of the Texas law. So it's a mess. And as Dahlia Lithwick says, it's legal mansplaining. That's exactly what it is, even with a woman on the majority of the court ruling in this case. And yeah, it's just chicken shit. But you know, why all this urgency to overturn Roe v. Wade? Why do we have this urgency? Well, on one hand, the white birth rate, well, actually the birth rate in general, and it's not just in the United States, it's all over the world. It's going down. It's plummeting down, 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 as I have noted in other videos. And COVID hasn't changed this trajectory of lower and lower and lower and lower birth rates. The only disadvantage to the lower birth rates is what happens when you have an older population, and when a substantial number of that older population can no longer work. How the hell are they going to be provided for? So there's got to be changes in Social Security or pension laws in various countries to deal with this. So, while this great big bulge is going through, the life cycle till they die off, what are they going to do to deal with that? So that's the only drawback. But it's best for the planet if the birth rates plummet. Of course, if all women refuse to have kids, then that would be the end of the human race somehow. But men are going to guarantee that never happens, of course. So there's all this concern about especially the white birth rate, despite birth rates going down all across the board. And so there's all this panicky shit. And then it's not just the worry about the decline of the white birth rate, but it's also men aren't getting laid like they used to, like they think they're entitled to. The right wants to go back to the 1950s, and where everybody married young and they popped babies out. Oh, this so-called romantic era, which was a bunch of shit for women. It was horrible. It was a horrible era. That was right after the Second World War, this aberrant crap. When the trends were already going, the other way, like they're going now. But we had that period from the post-war era, from about 1945 to about 1975, is when that was going on in the U.S. with the baby boom, and after that, and so there was all that, and then the men on the left want to return to the excesses of the late 1960s, where they just want to be able to screw anything that walked, any skirt, any woman that walked, and have no consequences for their actions. They wanted to just be able to put their dicks in anywhere, at any time, have women at the ready at all times, and without consequences of pregnancy or what they do to them. And Andrea Dworkin wrote about that in Right Wing Women, about what the motives were. So either way, the men have control, right? So now the men don't have control anymore. Thanks to the women's movement, thanks to changes in our economy and so forth, they don't have the control over women like they used to. And they're all whiny, they're all upset, they think women owe them something. Women don't owe them shit. And the thing is, women are finding out that men aren't worth dealing with anymore, except at a distance. They might have relationships with them. They might still sleep with guys. And we're talking about straight women here. We're not talking about lesbians. We're talking about straight women. They might, but they're not willing to give up what they've got, even if they're not living in the lap of luxury like yours truly, but to keep them at arm's length. Or they have relationships more on their terms. And women find there's nothing in it for them. If they do, even married women, they're finding more and more and more there's nothing in it for them. To go through the motherhood thing, to go through the traditional role thing, they're just dumped on because the men don't help around the house. They're lazy shits. And I've talked about this lots of times, where they were brought up, as boys, they could go out and play and have all this fun, and the girls had to sit there and do household chores. The boys might do, take out the garbage or mow the lawn or something. But the girls had to do the damn drudgery. So you're being raised to be a damn servant to a dude. So these boys would grow up, and the mommies would tell them, because it was invariably the mommies, oh, you don't have to do anything around the house because your wife will do it for you. That was the assumption. That's what I grew up with. And it's still largely true. Yes, there are boys who are raised to have the life skills around the house and all that. I know that. And more that way. But it's still that mentality that that it's beneath men to do anything around the house, to help raise the kids. It's all beneath them to do it. And they're providers, and the women are just dependents, and they just take on a secondary role as a provider. Well, it's not, more women are saying, fuck that shit. There's nothing in it for them. And so then you have people like that damn crackpot named Robin Hanson, who a few years ago, he's a crackpot because he teaches economics at George Mason University, which Nancy MacLean wrote about in detail in the book Democracy in Chains. That university gets a lot of Koch money and such very right-wing money to promote libertarian nonsense, because GMU was for years the academic home of the crackpot James Buchanan, and I've talked about him before, and he's the one that invented this libertarian horse shit. And so this Robin Hanson is one of those crackpots, and he thought women aren't human beings. He clearly believes women aren't human beings. And he wrote this long thing, and I'll link it just for fun. But they're a resource. Sex redistribution. Women aren't a goddamn resource to be redistributed to men. What the fuck? What the goddamn fuck? Men aren't entitled to them. That's a crackpot. That's crackpot. And then, of course, our friend Jordan Peterson was real big on this enforced monogamy, but he had to backpedal because he was looking at socially enforced monogamy like all of the 1950s, where girls you had to be a wife and mother. That was your career, and you couldn't do anything other than that, or in addition to that. Like men could be, in addition to being husbands and fathers, they could be workers. No. Women couldn't do that. They had to be tied down to the home. And, of course, a lot of this is based on declining white birth rate. And women are saying no to men. And many men are getting angry about it. And they're stomping mad about it. And they think they need help. I say screw them. Let them die off. Let these dudes die off. They're not, nobody owes them a damn thing. And I've run off, good Lord, this is the longest video I've ever done, so it's probably going to take 2 days to upload. But this is to get back to the United States Supreme Court and that idiotic decision, there's a lot of crap that's going into this rush to ban abortion. It's twofold. One, to get the white birth rate back up, and two, to bring back the 1950s because dudes aren't getting laid anymore to the degree to which they think they are entitled. So I kind of went off on a bird walk here, but anyway, that's it. This is way too long, and I've ranted too long, and anyway, so women are really screwed in Texas until the Supreme Court quits playing semantic games with the public.